The first explosion came silently. At least that was how Mara first noticed it. She stood atop the hill overlooking the city, a faint breeze tugging at her auburn hair, and saw the distant skyline tremble. Buildings swayed like reeds in a storm, lights flickering in the evening haze. Her heart thumped, not with fear but with a strange electric anticipation. Something had changed. Mara had always been a quiet observer, a listener of the world around her. At 28, she had seen enough to know the subtle signs that humanity was about to take a step no one could fully predict. The Council, the ruling assembly of alien intelligence that had long governed human affairs, had grown reckless. They saw humans as insects, nuisances to be subdued, rather than the unpredictable force they truly were, and yet they underestimated them. It started with whispers in the Undercity, where the hum of neon signs mingled with the scent of burnt circuits. Rumors of disappearances, secret experiments, and weapons that could bend the human mind traveled faster than the Council could track. Every corner of the sprawling human zones whispered one word: rebellion. Mara knew the cost of curiosity. Her brother, Elias, had vanished 3 years prior after questioning the Council's edicts. He had been a brilliant engineer, someone who could make machines hum with life, and his absence had left a hollow ache in her chest that never healed. But tonight, standing on the hill, Mara felt a pulse of courage, a spark she could no longer ignore. The first direct message came through her encrypted communicator. A name flashed: Kiran. She had never met him in person, only through fleeting transmissions that felt more like lifelines than conversations. His voice, calm yet urgent, broke through the static. "They've underestimated us. The Council believes humans are predictable. They've calculated their victory before the first blow has landed. But they're wrong. The time is now." Mara's pulse quickened. Every instinct screamed danger, but danger had always been a companion. She inhaled deeply and nodded. Even though no one could see her, somewhere deep inside a fire had begun to burn, a fire she knew she could not contain. Below the hill, the city was waking to chaos. Sirens wailed, their sound sharp against the evening air. Holographic billboards flickered with Council propaganda. Humanity thrives under guidance. Obedience ensures survival. But the people ignored them. They had learned to read the spaces between words, the glances, the silences. They had learned that the Council feared unpredictability. And tonight humanity would show them just how unpredictable they could be. Mara descended the hill, boots crunching against gravel, thoughts spinning. She remembered the stories Elias used to tell her about ancient humans, creatures that had survived ice ages, plagues and wars with nothing but wit and resilience. "Humans," he had said, "are storms contained in flesh, and storms cannot be tamed." Now those words were more than memory. They were prophecy. As she reached the streets, Mara found them crowded with humans moving as one, not in blind obedience but in precise, purposeful defiance. Engineers, laborers, children, everyone had a role. Makeshift barricades sprang up, communication hubs glowed with activity, and underground tunnels thrummed with secret energy. For the first time in decades, humanity felt like a living, breathing organism. A low rumble shook the ground. The Council's drones, gleaming in obsidian black, descended like dark clouds. Their weapons were precise, their numbers overwhelming. Yet Mara noticed the hesitations, the tiny falters in their coordinated movements. The humans had anticipated them. "Hold the line," Kiran's voice echoed in her ear. "Every human, every mind counts. They think they control us, but they don't, not anymore." Mara felt a surge of determination. This was not just a fight for survival. It was a declaration. Humanity would not bow. Humanity would not vanish quietly into the stars as the Council wished. And as the first wave of drones descended, the city erupted, not with screams of terror, but with the roar of humanity remembering who they were. The war had begun, and somewhere, in the shadows, the Council began to realize their greatest miscalculation. Mara's breath burned in her lungs as she sprinted through the streets, weaving between barricades and makeshift barricade towers. The night was alive with the glow of fires, the hum of machinery, and the low, ominous whir of Council drones. She could see the gleaming black shapes in the sky, their eyes like cold stars scanning for resistance. But humans were everywhere now, moving with an urgency that electrified the air. In the center of the city, a plaza that once celebrated the Council's victories now became humanity's first stronghold. Mara joined the crowd, a mix of engineers, medics, and ordinary citizens armed with whatever they could muster. She caught sight of Kiran, standing on the steps of the old government tower, his hand raised, signaling a rallying cry. "Tonight," he shouted, voice clear over the chaos, "we do what the council never thought possible. We survive, we fight. We remember that humanity cannot be caged." A cheer rose, raw and unpolished, but powerful. Mara felt it resonate in her bones, a vibration that seemed to push back against the drones circling above. Every human in that plaza knew what was at stake. Every eye burned with the knowledge that their choices, their courage, would echo far beyond this night. The council's response was immediate. The drones descended in a synchronized strike, their weapons spitting bursts of light that carved lines of smoke through the night. Mara ducked behind a barricade as a beam hit the plaza, shattering the stone beneath her feet. People screamed, some in terror, others in defiance. But no one ran. No one surrendered. From the rubble emerged Elias. Mara's heart stuttered. She had thought him gone forever, swallowed by the council's experiments. But here he was, older, hardened, yet unmistakably human. He raised his arms, signaling survivors to regroup, his voice cutting through the din. "Stick together. Remember your training. We are not prey." Mara ran to him, tears blurring her vision. Elias clasped her shoulder, eyes fierce but gentle. "You're late," he said, a small, grim smile tugging at his lips. "Better late than broken," Mara replied. And together they moved through the plaza, directing people to form a defensive line. Kiran's voice returned through the communicator. "Drones are adapting. They've learned from every strike. But humans are chaos made flesh. They cannot calculate our next move." Mara understood. The council had assumed that humans were predictable, that logic and fear would keep them in line. But humans thrived in the unpredictable, in the improvisation born of desperation and hope. They could read the patterns that the council could not see. The battle escalated. Mara and Elias worked side by side, redirecting energy pulses from hacked drones, turning the council's own machines against them. Children served as scouts, slipping through alleys to deliver messages and supplies. Medics ran between the wounded, their hands steady even as their hearts pounded. Humanity's ingenuity turned the city into a living weapon. Yet amid the victory, a shadow lingered. Kiran's voice, now tense, cut through Mara's thoughts. "They've deployed the Overseer, a single unit designed to suppress every human mind in a radius of 2 kilometers. It's the final layer, the Council's trump card." Mara felt a chill. The Overseer was legend whispered about in the Undercity like a ghost that devoured hope. No one had seen it and lived. And now, it was coming. The ground trembled as a massive form descended from the sky, larger than any drone, its black plating reflecting the flames below. Its sensors swept across the plaza, and humans froze, feeling an invisible weight pressing against their thoughts, probing for weakness. Elias gritted his teeth. "We hold or we die, but we do not break." Mara's mind raced. They could not fight the Overseer head-on, not yet. But humans were never meant to fight like machines. They fought with creativity, with courage, with heart. She grabbed a young engineer named Leora and whispered, "We can turn it. We can confuse it. Trust me." Leora's nod was the smallest gesture, but it carried the weight of generations. They moved toward a series of energy conduits hacking into the city's power grid. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the ground hummed with electricity as Mara and Leora manipulated the flow, sending erratic pulses into the Overseer's sensors. The machine paused, its rhythm thrown off, confusion flashing across its mechanical gaze. Mara felt the surge of hope ripple through the plaza. Humanity's unpredictability had worked, for now. Kiran's voice came, triumphant yet cautious. "You've done it. For now, but this war is only beginning. Remember this. We survive not because we are stronger, but because we are human." Mara looked around at the city, at the people battered but unbroken, and felt something swell inside her chest. Fear had been replaced by defiance. Chaos had become a weapon. And in the face of the Council's overwhelming might, humanity had discovered a truth no machine could ever compute. The heart is unpredictable, and it is unstoppable. The first stand had been made. The night was far from over, but humanity had lit the spark. And sparks, Mara knew, could ignite infernos. The morning after the first stand, the city felt different. Smoke still curled from shattered buildings, and the faint hum of drones lingered like an unwelcome ghost. Yet amid the ruins there was a rhythm, a heartbeat of defiance that no machine could silence. Mara walked through the streets alongside Elias, their steps careful among the rubble. Every face she passed bore traces of fear, yes, but also determination. Humans had survived worse than drones. They had survived hunger, disease, betrayal. And now, they survived the arrogance of an alien council that thought them fragile. Kiran met them at a central junction, leaning against a scorched vehicle. His eyes, usually sharp with calculation, flickered with exhaustion. "They won't stop," he said, voice low. "The council will throw everything they have at us. But here's the thing. We are not everything they expect." Mara nodded, feeling the weight of those words. Humanity had one advantage the council could never understand: unpredictability born from emotion, from love, fear, hope, and stubbornness. Machines could calculate, but they could not feel. And that difference might be the turning point. The city's communications network buzzed with reports. Small human units had begun counterattacks, striking at supply lines, sabotaging drones, and rescuing prisoners the council had intended to erase. Mara listened as a message crackled through her communicator. "Sector 7 is secure. Children evacuated. Power restored," she smiled despite herself. Even in despair, humans found ways to fight back. But the shadow of the Overseer still loomed. Its presence was a constant reminder that the council had layers of power humans could not yet fully comprehend. Reports indicated it was advancing, its path methodical, destroying anything that resisted. Mara felt a pang of helplessness. The weight of responsibility pressed down, heavier than any barricade. Elias noticed her hesitation. He took her hand briefly, a grounding gesture amid chaos. "We fight like humans, Mara, not machines. Fear is part of it, yes, but so is courage and hope." "Remember that," Mara nodded. His words were simple, but they carried truth heavier than any weapon. Humanity's strength was not in lasers or shields. It was in their hearts, in their refusal to bow. The first attempt to confront the Overseer directly failed miserably. Human squads had tried to lure it into traps, only to see it adapt with terrifying speed. Each loss was a blow to morale, yet humans did not yield. They regrouped, shared strategies, learned from failure. Failure was a teacher, not a sentence. In a dimly lit alley, Mara met with Leora and a small team of engineers. Their goal was audacious: hack into the city's satellite grid to create blind spots in the Overseer's sensors. It was a gamble, but humans thrived on risk when the stakes were survival. Leora's fingers flew across the console. Sparks flew as she rewired circuits, rerouted power, and bypassed security protocols designed by alien minds. Mara watched, mesmerized. Every small success made them bolder. Every glitch made them cleverer. Hours passed. Exhaustion clawed at them, but they pressed on. Finally, the screens lit up with confirmation. "Sensors disrupted," Leora whispered, voice trembling with relief. "We've done it." Mara's chest swelled. It was a minor victory, yes. But in the war the Council thought would be swift and decisive. Minor victories were the heartbeat of resistance. Then came the voice of the Council itself, broadcast across the city through hijacked drones, cold, imperious, mocking. "Humans," it said, "you are insignificant. You cling to hope as insects cling to life. Resistance is meaningless. Submit or be eradicated." A silence fell over the streets, and then a ripple, a cheer, a single voice shouting, "We are human." Another joined, then another. The city erupted. Humans banged makeshift drums, waved signs, sang songs, and shouted defiance. It was chaotic, beautiful, terrifying in its raw energy. Mara felt a tear slip down her cheek. She realized that the Council's arrogance had blinded them. They could not understand that humans drew strength from spirit, from unity, from emotion itself. Machines could enforce control, but they could not control the heart. Elias pulled her close. "They think this is the end," he said softly. "They're wrong. This is only the beginning, and soon they will learn the cost of underestimating us." Mara looked out over the city. Fires burned, yes, but they were not destruction, they were beacons. Humanity was not cowering. Humanity was rising, and in that rising she saw a storm forming, one that no council, no overseer, no machine could calculate or contain. The first sparks of defiance had become a flame, and Mara knew deep in her bones that once humanity's fire had been lit, it would consume all doubt, all fear, and ultimately, everything the Council had ever built to suppress them. Somewhere in the shadows, the overseer paused, sensors flickering as if uncertain. The storm of humanity was coming, and for the first time, the council had reason to fear. By the fourth night of rebellion, the city was no longer a battlefield. It was a living testament to human resilience. Fires burned in carefully controlled arcs, illuminating barricades in the faces of those who refused to surrender. The air was thick with smoke, determination, and the metallic tang of machine fuel. Mara moved through the streets with Elias, Kiran at their side. Each step revealed both destruction and hope. Buildings scarred by laser strikes now served as watchtowers. Overturned vehicles were turned into barricades, and every alleyway seemed alive with ingenuity. Humans had learned, adapted, and now, in their defiance, they were unpredictable in ways the council could not calculate. Every victory, Kiran said, voice tense, even small ones, is a crack in their armor. The council did not anticipate resilience as a weapon. Mara nodded. She had watched their drones falter repeatedly, their protocols failing against improvisation. It was as though every human act of courage undermined the alien logic that governed the council. But she also knew the danger. The council's arrogance had a sharp edge, and it would strike back ruthlessly. Reports streamed in from every sector. The overseer, once untouchable, had begun to hesitate. Its sensors faltered, its movement slowed, and anomalies in its system hinted at vulnerability. It was the first time any human had glimpsed weakness in the machine that had been described as perfection. "This is our chance," Mara whispered to Elias as they reached a vantage point overlooking the city's central square. "We strike where they least expect it." Elias's eyes flickered with determination. "We need to be careful. We can't just fight brute force. We need strategy. Humans are unpredictable, but so can we be in planning it." They moved quickly, coordinating with engineers, medics, and volunteers. Leora directed a small team to modify weapons, turning ordinary city tools into devices capable of jamming the overseer's systems. Children ran messages between barricades, their small forms darting through danger with fearless energy. Every citizen had a role, every action mattered, and the city pulsed with unified purpose. And then the first real sign of council panic appeared. The drones began colliding, some crashing into buildings or each other. Transmission errors spread like wildfire. The overseer, sensing unexpected interference, froze mid-flight, its scanning protocols disrupted. From their vantage point, Mara and Kiran watched as humans took initiative. Small squads began targeting the overseer directly, exploiting the blind spots they had created. Sparks flew from its surface as improvised weapons hit precise targets, each strike a testament to human ingenuity. In the midst of chaos, Mara spotted an alien envoy descending in a sleek craft, far from the usual drones. Its presence was deliberate, a warning, a test, or perhaps an attempt at intimidation. The humans hesitated for only a moment. Then from every direction they advanced, shouting, improvising, refusing to bow. The envoy attempted to establish control, broadcasting commands in harsh alien tones. But humans did not listen. Instead, they used the envoy's signals to trap it in an electromagnetic field, a method Kiran had devised in the previous days. The craft quivered, lights flickering, then collapsed in a controlled crash outside the city limits. Mara felt a surge of triumph. Humanity was learning, adapting, and turning the Council's own technology against them. Each misstep of the Council widened the cracks in their dominance. Yet amidst this surge of hope, a shadow of unease lingered. Reports suggested that the Overseer had begun to communicate with other units, coordinating attacks in ways previously unseen. The Council was learning, evolving, and that evolution carried lethal potential. Elias's voice was steady, grounding. "Every action they take is proof that we exist, and every mistake they make is proof that we are more than they ever imagined." Mara looked across the city, at the scorched streets and determined faces. She realized that humanity had become a force the Council could not contain, not because they were stronger, but because they were living, thinking, and feeling. Imperfect, yes. Fragile, yes, but unpredictable. Limitless in ways machines could not fathom. Night deepened. Fires lit the horizon like veins of molten courage, and humans moved with purpose through shadows and rubble alike. The first sparks of rebellion had grown into a roaring inferno. And as the Council's control faltered, a new truth emerged, undeniable and terrifying in its simplicity. Humanity could not be conquered. Somewhere in the upper reaches of the city, the Overseer's sensors flared, its mechanical mind struggling to comprehend the chaos below, and for the first time the Council realized that their war on humanity might be the war that ensured their own undoing. Mara clenched her fists, feeling the pulse of the city beneath her feet. The cracks had appeared, and humanity, with all its messy courage and stubborn hope, would push them until they shattered entirely. The city was awake with a determination that refused to be quieted. Even as smoke drifted lazily over the skyline and fires painted the streets in flickering gold, every heartbeat, every movement, carried purpose. Humanity was no longer reacting, they were advancing. Mara stood atop a crumbling overpass, her hair whipping in the wind, eyes scanning the horizon. The Overseer had retreated temporarily, damaged but far from destroyed. Its drones, scattered and disorganized, were regrouping, yet the humans did not hesitate. For the first time in decades, they were seizing the initiative. "Look at them," Kiran said, stepping beside her. "This is the moment the Council never imagined. They believed fear would keep us in line. They believed submission was inevitable. They forgot one thing. Humans fight with hope." Mara's gaze followed squads moving through alleys, engineers repurposing weapons, children and elders alike supporting the front lines. Every individual seemed to radiate defiance. It was chaos, yes, but chaos with purpose, an orchestra no machine could comprehend. Reports flooded in through hacked transmissions. Sectors previously under Council control were rising. Drones were captured and turned against their masters. Factories reprogrammed to supply human forces, and citizens freed from hidden compounds joined the fight with unbridled fervor. Humanity was learning faster than the Council could suppress. Elias approached, carrying a makeshift tactical map. "We have a chance to strike at the Overseer directly. If we disrupt its core logic, we might force it offline permanently, but it's dangerous, one wrong move, and we lose everything." Mara didn't flinch. "Everything we have is here. Everything we are is now. We don't have the luxury of fear." The plan was audacious. Mara, Kiran, and Elias would lead a small team into the heart of the city, where the Overseer was weakest. Leora's modifications allowed them to mask their movements from its sensors, but only temporarily. Timing, ingenuity, and courage would be their weapons. As they advanced, Mara couldn't help noticing the faces around her, sweat-streaked, dirt-covered, but unwavering. Humanity's spirit was tangible, almost visible in the resolute set of their jaws, the fire in their eyes. She realized then that the Council had never understood the true measure of human strength. It wasn't in technology or numbers, it was in willpower, in unity born of shared struggle. The team reached the central plaza, now partially in ruins. The Overseer hovered above, sensors flaring, analyzing every movement. Its mechanical gaze swept the streets, calculating possibilities, predicting strategies, but always one step behind. Humans had made themselves unpredictable. Every detour, every feint, every improvised barricade confounded it. Leora stepped forward, fingers flying over a portable console. Sparks leapt as she rerouted city energy to overload the Overseer's stabilizers. "Now!" she shouted. Mara and Elias led the charge, sprinting through the rubble, dodging energy blasts and placing the devices that would disrupt the Overseer's core. The machine faltered, its movements jerky and uneven. Every strike the humans delivered seemed amplified by their courage. A sudden blast threw Mara to the ground. Pain lanced through her shoulder, but she forced herself up. Around her, the city fought back in unison. Every human action compounded the machine's errors. Every strike of ingenuity destabilized the Council's carefully orchestrated dominance. The Overseer screamed in mechanical resonance, a sound devoid of emotion but heavy with malfunction. Its drones faltered, crashing into buildings, exploding in sparks of failure. Humans surged forward, relentless, unstoppable. From the sky, Kiran's voice cut through the chaos. "Push, humanity doesn't retreat. We innovate. We survive, we rise." And rise they did. The Overseer, now erratic and vulnerable, began to fall under the combined force of ingenuity, courage, and sheer will. Sparks flew from its hull as the human team exploited every flaw, every hesitation, every opening the machine gave them. Mara felt something stirring deep within her, a mix of fear, exhilaration, and awe. Humanity was not merely surviving. They were reclaiming the world the Council had tried to suppress. And in that reclaiming, a message echoed clear as thunder. No force, no matter how advanced, could fully extinguish the unpredictable fire of human spirit. The overseer collapsed, toppling to the plaza with a metallic roar, sparks scattering like stars across the night. A hush fell over the city, broken only by cheers and cries of triumph. Humans had faced the impossible and survived. They had turned despair into strength, chaos into strategy, and fear into defiance. Mara looked around at the faces illuminated by fires and victory. The council had thought them weak, manageable, expendable. And yet here they stood, battered but unbowed, victorious not because of technology, but because of the heart, the courage, and the unwavering spirit that defined humanity. For the first time in centuries, the city was theirs. And Mara knew this was only the beginning. The council had underestimated them, and that underestimation would be their undoing. The morning after the overseer's fall, the city hummed with a strange, victorious energy. Smoke still curled from smoldering ruins, and fires illuminated jagged silhouettes of collapsed drones. But the air was different now, lighter, charged with possibility. Humanity was no longer merely surviving. They were advancing, reclaiming every street, every alley, every shadowed corner the council had once controlled. Mara moved through the city alongside Elias and Kiran, her heart pounding not from fear but from anticipation. Every street told a story. Humans who had fought against impossible odds, children carrying water to the wounded, engineers repairing weapons as fast as the council could break them. The city had become a living testament to defiance. "The council is faltering," Kiran said quietly, scanning the skyline. "They're starting to panic. Orders are confused, drones are colliding, and the overseer's loss has shaken their command structure. This is the moment to strike decisively." Mara nodded. Humanity had learned quickly. Each victory emboldened them. Each setback taught them more than the council ever imagined possible. Machines could predict, calculate, and adapt, but they could not feel fear, hope, or the unyielding need to survive. That human spirit had become the weapon no council could master. Reports flooded in. Communication networks previously dominated by the council were now hijacked by human operators, providing real-time coordination. Supplies captured from fallen drones kept the fight alive. Underground safe houses became command centers. Even the council's propaganda was turned against them, broadcast back through hijacked channels to inspire humans rather than suppress them. Elias turned to Mara, his face grim yet resolute. "The council still has power, but it's slipping. We've proven we can adapt faster than they can calculate. If we push now, we can force them into mistakes that will destroy their hold completely." The team moved through the streets with purpose. Leora led a small unit, rigging city defenses to turn captured drones against their former masters. Mara and Elias worked alongside volunteers, repairing barricades and coordinating attacks that used the council's technology against them. Every moment was a blend of improvisation and strategy, the perfect storm of human ingenuity. Above, the council's remnants struggled to regain control. Ships hovered uncertainly, drones collided mid-air, and reports of mutiny within the ranks began to filter down. Their arrogance had left them unprepared for an opponent who could learn faster than they could dominate. In a quiet alley, Mara paused to catch her breath, watching a child carry a bucket of water past a shattered vehicle. The child's eyes burned with determination, completely unaware of the scale of the battle, but embodying the essence of what made humanity extraordinary. Mara felt a surge of emotion. Every human, from the youngest to the oldest, was part of this fight. Each act of courage, no matter how small, pushed the council further into chaos. A sudden alert came from Kiran. The council's flagship, a massive vessel that had hovered over the city like a storm cloud, was preparing a strike against the city center. Its weapons could level entire blocks, ending their rebellion in minutes. The humans could not face it head-on. They had to force the council to underestimate them once more. Mara's mind raced. "We use what they expect us to fear. We make them think the city is fractured, that we're desperate. Then we strike at their flagship's weak points." Elias's eyes gleamed. "It's risky, but that's humanity's edge. We are willing to risk everything for survival." The team mobilized, deploying deceptive signals, creating phantom squads, and using the city's layout to confound sensors. When the Council's flagship fired, the city appeared to crumble, but humans were hidden, ready. Drones miscalculated, lasers struck empty streets, and the flagship's systems were slowly disrupted by human ingenuity and bold improvisation. From their vantage point, Mara and Elias watched as the massive ship shuddered, sparks flying along its hull. Kiran's voice crackled through the communicator. "Now, hit the core!" The humans surged, targeting the vulnerable nodes they had discovered, turning the Council's own defenses against them. The flagship erupted in a blinding explosion, fire cascading into the sky. For the first time, the Council's authority was not just challenged, it was shattered. Mara stood amid the cheers of her fellow humans, chest heaving. She felt the enormity of the moment. The Council had believed themselves untouchable. They had underestimated human courage, ingenuity, and spirit, and now their reign of control was crumbling. Elias clapped her shoulder. "We've done more than survive. We've reminded them and ourselves what humanity can achieve when it refuses to bow." Mara looked out over the city, over the flames, over the people who had fought and survived, and felt something swell inside her, a pride not born from victory alone, but from the unwavering spirit that had brought them here. The Council's grip had slipped. Humanity had proven that even the mightiest oppressors could be undone by courage, hope, and an unyielding will to survive. And Mara knew, with quiet certainty, that the final chapter was approaching. The sky was burning, not with fire alone, but with the fury and brilliance of a world refusing to bow. The remnants of the Council's fleet had fallen, their ships smoldering in scattered wreckage. Yet above the city a tension lingered, an electric hum that whispered danger, the last echo of an empire unprepared for its own collapse. Mara stood atop a crumbled tower, wind tangling her hair, eyes fixed on the horizon. Beside her, Elias and Kiran surveyed the city's streets, now flowing with survivors, fighters, medics, and engineers. Humanity had reclaimed every inch of the city. The fight had been brutal, terrifying, and unforgiving, but they had endured. "They thought they could control us," Mara murmured, voice steady, though her chest burned with the memory of every lost friend, every scar, every sleepless night. "They thought they could predict us. They thought fear would keep us in line." Elias's hand rested on her shoulder. "They underestimated us because they never understood us. Humans are more than logic and patterns. We are courage, hope, creativity, and stubbornness. We are impossible to contain." The city itself seemed to breathe with agreement. Fires flickered in controlled arcs, shadows danced on shattered walls, and humans moved with quiet purpose, rebuilding as they had fought, together, relentless, unstoppable. From the distant remnants of the Council fleet, a signal flared, a desperate attempt at a final strike. Mara's communicator crackled with Kiran's urgent voice. "They're sending one last weapon. We have minutes before it reaches the city center. We can't let it destroy everything." Mara's mind raced. The weapon was enormous, an energy cannon capable of annihilating entire districts. But humanity had learned the art of the unexpected. Leora and her engineering teams had prepared for this moment, rigging city conduits to channel energy back into the Council's weapon, turning their last strike into a trap. The seconds stretched, heavy and electric. Mara's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Around her, humans moved like living rivers, precise yet unpredictable, improvising, coordinating, surviving. They had faced worse, and yet here they were, undaunted. The Council's weapon fired. Light tore across the city, an unstoppable beam of destruction aimed to erase everything. But the human's trap activated. Energy flowed through rerouted conduits, striking the weapon's core. Sparks exploded, alarms screamed, and the beam faltered, bending back toward the remnants of the Council fleet. A collective gasp rose from the streets. Mara's eyes widened as the energy struck the ships, detonating them in cascading explosions that painted the night sky with fire and brilliance. Humanity did not cheer immediately. They watched, holding their breath, until the final embers of the fleet fell silent. The city was quiet for a moment, a silence that was almost sacred, and then a roar erupted, not of machines, not of commands, but of humans. The survivors ran through the streets, hugging, crying, laughing, their voices joining in a single chorus of defiance and triumph. Mara felt tears stream down her face. She had seen so much darkness, so much despair. But here, in this victory, she felt the impossible. Hope made real, courage unbroken, humanity triumphant. Elias clasped her hand. "We've done more than survive. We've done more than fight. We've reminded the universe that humans cannot be controlled, cannot be predicted, and cannot be destroyed. Kiran stepped forward, looking out at the city he had helped guide. The council thought they ruled over us. They believed their intelligence and power made them untouchable. But they forgot one fundamental truth. Humanity's spirit is infinite, and infinite cannot be calculated. As dawn broke over the city, painting it in gold and rose, Mara felt the weight of the night lift. Ruins surrounded them, yes, but they were ruins of oppression, not of hope. The city and humanity had endured. They had faced annihilation and emerged stronger, more united, more alive. Somewhere deep in her chest, Mara felt a surge of certainty. Humanity would never bow again. They had seen the darkest depths, survived the impossible, and discovered the most profound truth, that courage, hope, and spirit were weapons the Council could never anticipate, control, or extinguish. And as the first rays of sunlight touched the city's scarred but steadfast skyline, Mara whispered to herself, "We are humanity, and we will rise." The Council's war had intended to extinguish them. Instead, it had sparked humanity's greatest triumph. Their obliteration was not the end, but the dawn. The world was theirs. And in their hands, humanity would never forget the power of heart, courage, and the indomitable will to survive. The Council had fought humanity, and in doing so, had forged their own oblivion.